Hello everyone, this is part 34 of What If Naruto Was Abused and Trained by Madara Uchiha, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. December 23rd. The War Council of Konohagakure no Sato was within its chambers discussing the future plans that were to take place. As agreed during the Cage Summit, Tsunade would send every little thing she knew about Madara and some things about Naruto to both Iwagakure and Kumogakure. They were supposed to return for another summit again to continue with the talks since nothing concrete was ever resolved because Madara and Naruto had decided to gate crash their meeting. It was unlikely that they would meet again, though. The incident had caused an outrageous reaction from most people, especially those within Konoha. Once the villagers got hold of the fact that Naruto had crashed into the Cage Summit along with Madara and merely watched while the legendary Uchiha battled the cages, they were furious with him. He was working with a traitor to their village, a traitor that attacked their cage and nearly killed her. It was unacceptable. Possibly Naruto would never be forgiven for this act. As it stood, even if they wanted Naruto to come back to the villagers wouldn't accept him. Even though he didn't really take part in the battle himself, he was still there and merely watched. Are you certain that he isn't working with Madara? Tsunade questioned in an all-serious tone, looking straight at the remaining Uchiha within the village walls. It was hard to believe that Naruto and Madara weren't working together. The way they talked to each other, the way they did things, and their powers, it all made it now simple to believe that they were indeed related. The two Uchihas spoke like they were good friends or something. One couldn't say they were enemies, she doubted they even considered themselves to be enemies. Yes, I'm positive. Before Naruto left, he told me that they don't agree on their ideals. This means that whatever plans Madara has, Naruto doesn't agree with it. However, this doesn't guarantee that Naruto will stop him even if he doesn't agree with the plans, Sasuke answered calmly. Because they don't agree in their ideals, it does not mean that they don't agree on certain things. That still doesn't give us the assurance that they aren't working together. If anything, they seem to be working well together. At the summit, Naruto held the guards while Madara fought us. If something like this happens again, it may be in reversed roles, Tsunade stated, shaking her head slightly. This was giving her a headache. It could be possible that even though they don't agree on their ideals, they still get along just fine. We have seen this, and can confirm. There is, however, nothing to prove that right now they aren't sitting together while they plot something, Tsunade stated, giving her own opinion on the matter. We've made the basis that they get along. What we cannot confirm is whether they are working together or not, Jiraiya stated, trying to get the discussion going so that they didn't get stuck going on in the same matter. I've said it, they are not working together, Naruto told me himself. The problem would be whether Naruto will be willing to stop him or not, Sasuke stressed. The thing that got this people wrong with Naruto was that they didn't understand him. He understood bits about the blonde, but he was certain that only Madara understood him fully. Well, Naruto isn't the one to hide behind the bush. If he was working with Madara he would have said so, Shikaku stated not so lazily like he always does. What he did know about the blonde was that he was very blunt and a straightforward person. He didn't do hints. Hiashi nodded in agreement to Shikaku's words. I also think if he was working with Madara, he would have told us. As Sasuke has said, the big question is whether he will stop him or not. This is indeed troublesome, Chooser stated sighing. He ensured that Madara had his fun with the cages, and merely watched as he beat him up, who is to say he won't do it again? That will depend, Sasuke started. It will depend on whether the situation favors him or not. What I've realized is that Naruto doesn't do things for fun, he always has a purpose. He also doesn't do anything that does not favor him. If it favors him, he could simply watch as Madara does as he plans to do. Sasuke is indeed correct, Inoki added, with a nod. When you look at what has happened after we banished him, you can see why he didn't even put a fight. There are many things that have happened since we banished him, and it seems like he'd been waiting for us to do it. I did tell you that if it was still going according to his plans, he wouldn't put up a fight. But things are just moving way faster than I would like. This pace of things does not give us much time to make sound preparations. Jiraiya spoke again, in a bit of a tired voice. Why then, did he allow Madara to attack the cages? I think he knew that it would not look good on him with the villagers if he did that. Then why would he deliberately do something that would put him at odds with the villagers? What did he gain by allowing the cages to fight Madara? Shiba Aberrain questioned something that was bothering him. He had a feeling of an answer, but he didn't want to accept it. By the looks of things, it seemed like he has only made himself look bad more than anything. If capturing the Bijuas wasn't enough, he had to crash into the cage summit. Perhaps it was all that he wanted, or there is something that we are missing, Shikaku stated, looking thoughtful for a moment. Or there could be nothing into it. That was a thought that they never considered. But it was not that important at this given time. The fact that Naruto has hunted down all the remaining Bijuas makes things very complicated. We don't even know what he is planning to do with them. What we know is that he is just doing what the Akatsuki was doing. The problem is that we were never able to figure out just what the Akatsuki wanted to do with the Bijuas, Tsume stated. This was a matter that worried her the most. They were now assuming that Naruto had all the Bijuas with him, and whatever he was planning with that amount of power wasn't bound to be good. I think we have to finally accept that Naruto is up to something. He has committed crimes against other great villages and they want his head. We cannot also ignore the fact he did something that he knew would put him in a bad light in the eyes of our villagers. Hiashi stated something that no one seemed to be willing to bring out. As much as it pains me to say, I have to agree with Hiashi. We have been focused on what Madara may be planning or what Naruto will do about Madara. We have never considered the thought that Naruto may have his own plans. It could be that both have their own plans. Naruto cannot disagree with Madara's plan if he doesn't have his own plan, Jiraiya stated, not sounding happy about this. So are you finally getting over your mixed emotions and come to a rational conclusion? Homura stated smoothly. I suggest the best ranking for him in the bingo book is SS rank and Madara as well. No one seemed to disagree with this. I'll have that worked as soon as we leave here, Tsunade said, before turning to look at Sasuke, who looked amused. What is it? I wonder what Naruto will do about this. Technically, he hasn't committed any crime against this village, and branding him an SS rank criminal only means that you can no longer welcome him back after things settle down. I've no doubt that Naruto dislikes the villagers, but I wonder what he will do when he knows about this. I also wonder if you all prepared to be enemies of Uchiha Naruto. We have no choice but to be prepared for anything, Inoki stated. But now that they have decided to make Naruto their enemy, it means that they will have to fight him in the near future. It was obvious that the villagers would never accept him back into the village. Naruto had said he would return when he wants to, but the question was whether he would be returning in good terms or with other intentions. Just so you understand everything, I will remind you, Sasuke stated calmly. You are about to make an enemy with someone who was abused by the villagers of this village because he was a Jinchuriki despite being the son of the previous Hokage. He hasn't made it a secret that he holds no love for the villagers. He possibly has 9 Bijuas under his control, and his own power rivals a man who defeated the 5 Kages. Need I add that he totally overpowered them? There was some tense silence for a few moments before Tsunade spoke. I understand all, but we cannot cower because the odds don't look good for us. This is our choice, and I hope never to regret it. We have been living long enough. We will see this through. Homura stated. Then how do we go about dealing with both Uchihas? At the moment, it doesn't matter what they are planning. What is important is that they are both too powerful to be left roaming around the world freely. The others nodded in agreement. What of Yugao? Doesn't she know anything? Hiashi asked. If she knew something, then they would have to be aware of it. The fate of the village depended on how much information they could gather. Tsunade was surely not going to tempt Naruto's ire by having Inoki examine Yugao's mind to determine whether the blonde informed her of certain details about his plans. Naruto already hated the village. Doing something to Yugao would only add more wood to the fire that was already burning. She could only hope that Hiashi had nothing like that in mind. No, Naruto didn't tell her anything, Sasuke responded, shaking his head slightly. Naruto's sense of love is quite different. I thought that given time he would act normal, but I soon realized that it was impossible. Regardless of how he felt about Yugao, he didn't tell her anything. This is troubling. We don't know what he is planning and how we are going to stop him. Chooser stated, sounding a bit frustrated by everything. Naruto was already too powerful to deal with, and they could be dealing with both Naruto and Madara. That is one ending that he hoped Kami wouldn't script for them. I think our best option is to work with both Kumogakure and Iwa. This will reduce the causalities we may face and ensure that we get enough power to tackle the problem, Shikaku suggested. That is sound, Tsunade then nodded to herself after a few thoughts passed her mind. But it will depend on what the Tsuchikage and Reikage will say. However, the fact that we have two Sharingan uses makes it hard for them to say otherwise. What of Sunagakure and Kirigakure? Inoiki questioned quietly. Both were their allies, so they ought to also help them out. Don't count them in, Tsunade responded quickly. Both of them seem to be in contact with Naruto. They have yet to say anything about the fact that we have banished Naruto, and I doubt that they will do anything against him. Isn't it that both were at his country's capital a few days ago? Sasuke nodded in agreement. They were both not surprised by Naruto's change. This means that Naruto had talked to both of them after the change. There is also the fact that out of the 5 cages, they weren't much surprised when Madara challenged the leaders. Naruto must have informed them about what was going to happen. Hiashi said. It appears that way. Jiraiya said calmly. Fighting Naruto means fighting his country. But I don't think that it will survive an attack from 3 great villages. Still, to get to his country, they would have to get past Naruto, and that was a task that seems to need the hands of Kami and the forces of nature working with them. Tsunade nodded. We can discuss that later after we have talked to both Iwa and Kumogakure. She stated, before looking at Sasuke. What did you feel from Naruto at the summit? Sasuke sighed. This was going to shock the whole room if he didn't color it. He was a lot stronger than he was when he left. Even though he didn't fight, I can say that he had much more chakra than Madara did. You are saying that he is currently stronger than Madara? Shikaku said. It wasn't a question. This was man who defeated the 5 cage was not as strong as Naruto. This was just troublesome. He wasn't expecting the blonde to have become even stronger. That isn't good. It only makes it even more difficult to fight him. What do you think caused his change in physical appearance though? Jiraiya questioned, looking at Sasuke, who knew the blonde better than anyone within the chambers. I don't know. I really don't know. Whatever caused it, seems to have made him much powerful. Sasuke responded, shaking his head. This was all mysterious to him. He tried figuring out what had happened, but he couldn't get the answers. I'm told that Naruto lives in a palace that is far above in the sky above his country's capital. I hear people saying that the formation in the sky is like an island in the middle of an ocean, it is green as the fire country, is there any truth to it? Homura questioned, changing the subject. The people there call it, the Emperor's home, the Holy Palace, the Imperial Palace, or the Holy Ground of Kami-sama, Jiraiya revealed quietly. I can say that it does exist and Naruto does live in there. It is said after the Cage Summit, he was only seen once at the capital. I don't know about other things. No one has ever gone there. Let us assume that no one but Naruto himself has ever gone up there. It is a safe bet to say that only Naruto can go there, and those he takes, Shikaku suggested. The implications of his words were not missed by anyone. I have to agree with you. But we can't leave it like that. We have to find a way to be able to get to him. And has anyone figured out why he would choose to live up there? Jiraiya had also heard that Naruto really does nothing. Gurren was the one who leads the actually day-to-day activities while Naruto just watches. I don't know, but I assume that it has something to do with whatever he is planning, Shikaku stated, shaking his head at the lack of information. There were many things that were unknowns to them and it wasn't healthy. Has anyone considered that Madara and Naruto could come here to destroy this village? Sume asked. The very thought of it brought dread into her heart and made her outer layer of skin cold. If both those two attacked Konoha, she doubted they would live to see another day. Silence. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, Sasuke said, folding his across his sea. He was most likely to watch it happen if the forces of nature dragged things to that path. He had nothing to protect in Konoha, no strong attachments towards the village. Both Naruto and Madara have something in common, Konoha. Madara fled from the village and turned traitor, and Naruto was banished. The only thing that Madara cared for in this village was the Uchiha clan, and that is no longer there. Naruto loathes Konoha, and his banishment only intensifies his hatred, Jiraiya said in looking in thought. He didn't realize he was speaking aloud. The two of them could combine their efforts and destroy our village. He trailed off when he realized that everyone was staring at him with mixed expressions. December 24th, capital of Rice. Yugito passed the gate of the capital without any difficulty. They didn't even look at her papers. Once she arrived at the gate, a Chunin offered to walk her to her destination. This only birthed a thought that they had been informed of her coming or the security was just lax. On her right, there were a number of buildings. A lot of noise was coming from the direction. She could only guess that it was the shopping district. It sounded lively with the noise that invaded her senses. On her right were a number of tall buildings. She could only identify the hospital. In front of her were what she presumed to be apartment blocks, and up ahead above was the now famous Crystal Palace. Yugito decided to enjoy the scene a bit more and wandered about the streets with the Chunin following her from behind. She'd noted that the Chunin wore no Chunin flank jacket, his forehead protector. The symbol on the forehead protector was shaped like the Uchiha fan symbol, but inside of it was a swirl of the Uzumaki clan. Yugito stared at the buildings ahead of her with a sad smile on her face. It was her first time coming here, but it was cool as she had been told. She never thought that this place would possibly be like this. She had so far only heard rumors about this place, but looking at it by her own eyes, she could see it was a happy place. The looks of the residents were very different she got from Kumogakure, her own home. She couldn't believe that this was the place that Naruto led. From home, people painted a horrible picture of her fellow blonde, even stories coming from a Wagakure weren't good ones. But how could someone called Evil Incarnate lead such a healthy country? They say that he was power-hungry and will do anything for power. They say that he was controlling and forced people into his will. But looking at this people, she couldn't say any of those. She had looked at his expression on different occasions and she could say that he was not exactly what you call a nice person, but he didn't appear to be so bad. Even the happy smiles of these people didn't appear to be forced. No, they were truly happy. This was not the place she would wish to destroy. Yes, I was planning to destroy this place with all of Kumo's might. But these people were innocent. They haven't done anything. Kumo's problem laid with Naruto. Should they not just hunt him down and deal with him instead of involving the innocents? Technically, Naruto didn't lead this country. He could be called a founder of the Imperial Kingdom of Rice Fields, even though the kingdom was built on an existing country. The woman called Gurren was said to be the one who did everything. She was said to be the one who controlled most things. Some even said that Naruto allowed her to do as she pleased. However, it was all just rumors. It is truly majestic, isn't it? The Chunin leading Yugito towards the Crystal Palace stated, looking straight at the palace. It was indeed majestic despite the fact that it was currently being reshaped. There were workers around the palace, working hard in extending the palace. A wall was being built around the place, and it was surrounded by a number of buildings. From where she stood, Yugito could see that there were other tall buildings behind the palace. However, it did appear that the palace itself was being increased in height. Yugito said nothing for a few moments. What is that? She questioned looking at the object that was far above the capital. Despite being above the capital, it did block the sun from shining down the capital. There was not even its shadow imprinted down. Of course she knew what it was, but she was curious as to hear how the people of this capital would call it by her own ears. That is where His Majesty lives. I have never been there myself. Rumor from the Crystal Palace say that it is quite a beautiful place. His Majesty. Oh. Most people now call Naruto-sama His Majesty. He is the king of this country after all. An imperial kingdom is led by a king or a queen. The Chunin responded, ever so smiling. You could tell he held some pride for his king. Yugito merely nodded. You seem to respect him a lot. Have you ever seen him in person? While for a Kage it would be rare for villagers not to see him in person, Naruto didn't appear to be a person who liked other people's company. So to her, it wouldn't be a surprise if some hadn't even seen him in person. Yes, I saw him once. But it was a few weeks ago while he was building the new wall. Of course, I didn't get a good look on his face. The Chunin paused for a moment before speaking again. My respect for him is not just because of his power. Even though Guren-sama is the one who oversees everything in the capital, it was His Majesty's efforts that saw this place standing. I work in a safe environment and can provide for my family because of him. I'd say that my respect is warranted. To many of us, he is like a savior. A savior, that would make them like the people of Kirigakure. Because of his efforts during the Civil War, they now hailed him as their hero and savior. Don't you feel afraid that your Majesty is branded an international criminal and other villagers will probably attack and lay siege to this place? Smiling, the Chunin shook his head. You see, I don't come from this country. I was a shinobi in a small village. Getting work was very hard, but when I heard about him, I came looking for work and I got it. It also pays well. But that is not why I do not fear anything. This capital is protected by strong men. I tell you, whenever I walk about these streets, I know that I'm safe. That aside, His Majesty is still alive. And Guren-sama told us that as long as we can still see His Majesty's palace, no enemy will set foot on our home and destroy it. I believe that. And what is there to be fearful of if His Majesty is stronger than the man who defeated the 5 cages? Yugito couldn't really say anything for a few moments. It seems like this place appears like it will be that place where dreams come true. It already is. Many of the people came here seeking for a new start of life. You see that building? He pointed at a building that was 2 blocks away from the hospital. The building was about 15 floors tall, and it was not the tallest building within the capital. That is the HQ of a business owned by the Imperial Kingdom. My younger sister works there. I don't really know what she does, but it is related to accounting. Many people have been employed there, as long as they had the right qualities. There are those civilians who dream of working in one of the biggest company in the world. My sister is one of them and her dream is now a reality. That couldn't have come out of Naruto's head. It had to be Guren who came up with that thought. Yugito would be freaked out if she is told that it was Naruto's idea to make dreams of other people's come true. I've seen enough. Can I ask something, miss? The Chunin questioned, looking straight at Yugito. The woman nodded. May I know what a Kumogakure shinobi is doing in enemy territory? I figure that if your raikage is seething because His Majesty took away your Bayu, you would also be seething. Yugito narrowed her eyes. She wasn't even wearing her Kumogakure headband. Not everyone from outside her village would recognize her. How do you know all that? Depending on our ranks, all of us who guard the capital are privileged to know most things. When we are informed, we are able to identify and know whoever enters the gates of the capital. My reason for coming is none of your business, Yugito responded coldly. The Chunin merely smiled. You don't have to be so cold, Yugito-san. I was merely curious, he stated, in a smooth tone, not even bothered by her cold tone. I do agree, you have seen enough. Follow me. Nothing further was said. She was led straight to the Crystal Palace. They passed a few rooms, halls, until they reached the 3rd floor. The Chunin left her at Guren's door. Yugito didn't wait for an invite to step into the office. Once she got into the office, she found the woman in charge of the country working peacefully alone, sitting behind her large desk. You came here sooner than he expected. Guren stated as Yugito took a seat. Where is he? Yugito demanded, looking straight at Guren. She was here for Naruto, nothing else mattered. Watch your tone, Yugito-san. Guren warned smoothly. Of course she wasn't going to allow anyone to speak to her like that. Naruto is not here. I haven't seen him in more than a week. And I can only get there when I am called. But if you are going to speak like that, I may decide against informing him of your arrival. Listen here, Guren-san. Naruto took away something important to me and he told me to come here so he could fix things. You either get him down here or I'll find a way to get him down. Yes, she was stubborn and would not submit easily. You are misunderstanding things, Yugito-san. Guren stated, drawing the blonde's full attention. He didn't call you here because he wanted to fix things. It is only pity because he was a Jinchuriki like you. However, that pity can be withdrawn in the blink of eye. Yugito gritted her teeth, and contained herself before speaking in a smooth tone. Will you bring him down here? It depends. Before Yugito could respond, Naruto's voice spoke. It is alright, Guren. His choice was barely a whisper. He wasn't even facing the 2 women when he spoke. His head was facing the other side, giving the 2 women a view of his right side. Yugito quickly spun around because he spoke behind her and she hadn't even felt his presence. So His Majesty finally decided to grace me with his presence. That was bitter sarcasm. Naruto gave no response to it. He had no response for such petty words. You really shouldn't allow people to speak to you like that, Gurren stated with a sigh. Really, she hated it when someone spoke to him like that or spoke trash about him. But he did not care. The usual reaction was a blank stare. Naruto turned around to face the door. I will consider that, he said. Follow me, Yugito. Yugito stood up to follow him, but before she could take a step towards him, they both disappeared into nothingness. Gurren merely went back to her work. Imperial Palace. When her eyes started seeing again, Yugito found herself standing in a large hall. The hall was dimly lit. She couldn't see clearly what was around her. The air around her was a bit oppressing, but she held her nerve well. She figured that she had been teleported into Naruto's own palace. She looked ahead, and saw him. He was sitting on a throne, with his head resting on his palm. The only thing that glowed in the hall was his left Sharingan eye. Yugito took a single step forward, and the lights went out. But she never lost her sense. She could feel where things were. And Naruto's eye gave her the direction to take. She took 4 steps further towards him. He never moved, nor even blinked. However, when she moved onto her 6th step, he spoke. Don't come near. Everything felt wrong with his tone. His voice lacked the usual firmness and power it always carried. Something was wrong here. She took another step forward, despite his warning. Don't come near. He spoke again. But this time she defined what it was that felt wrong in his tone. His voice was weak. It was like that of someone who was bedridden. She put the voice together with the Naruto she saw when he took away her Bayu and found it hard to believe that it was his voice. She'd never heard him feel so weak, nor did she ever think she would get the feeling from him. The man who took away everything from her felt weak. But she needed to confirm it. She defiled him and took another step forward. Her next step was like a switch to the lights. When they went on, she felt the something calling for her attention around her, but she ignored it all and settled for looking straight at Naruto. Her feet finally carried her closer to Naruto. She could feel that he was alone. The oppressing air was not coming from the blonde, no, it was coming from the palace itself. The aura Naruto gave screamed weak. His skin was frighteningly pale, and his eye didn't look cold as always. His expression was a mixture of grimness and impassiveness. She couldn't define the final product. One thing was certain, it didn't belong there. He was her enemy, he took away her reason to live. She was no longer useful to I because of him. Those few who respected her, no longer did because she could no longer do what she used to do. Perhaps it was her own feelings. Now she was being told to stay out of other things because they were too dangerous for her. It wasn't that she was weak, but without Matatabi, she wasn't as strong as she was. It made her realize that she was seen as powerful because of her Bayu. Even without it, she was still Jonin level in strength. Yet, she was now being treated like a genin. She now felt useless, because of him. Yes, it was his fault. Her instinct screamed for her to laugh at him for looking so pathetic. She wanted to take advantage of his weakness and tear him apart before claiming his head and raising it high. But her heart sang otherwise. She moved a bit closer, and ran her hand across his right cheek. He never even twitched or blinked. His skin was cold enough to send shivers across her body. Without even thinking about it, Yugito still kept her hand on his cheek, and her face was dangerously close to his. Are you okay? There was concern in her tone. She did not know where it was coming from. He was her enemy after all. Are you trying to become intimate with me, woman? If it wasn't for his weak tone, Yugito would have taken a step away from him. Are you all right? She asked again. She retrieved her hand from him and stood still, waiting for his response. He finally blinked, but he still did not move. Why have you come here? And answer carefully. Knowing that she wasn't going to get an answer, Yugito responded to his question. You took away something that made me useful to my village. I don't wish to be useless. You said if I wanted to become useful I should come to you, and here I am. I will not be happy once he hears that you are dealing with the enemy. He didn't wait for her input on his words. Since you are willing to deal, I will give you what you desire. But not now. Be a little patient. Yugito couldn't help herself. I figured you wouldn't be able to do anything in this pathetic state. What happened to you anyway? Naruto closed his eyes and the lights went out. After I give you what you desire, you'll have to do something for me. That was all he said before her presence was rubbed away from his palace. Yet even after those words, Yugito didn't feel like she would come to regret anything. She did not think he would have her do anything bad. But if he wished for her to do bad or betray her village, she would rather than do as he wishes. She knew that the Raikage was going to be furious with her. But she wasn't going to concern herself with anything. And she wasn't telling anyone what she saw. If she did that, I would march his forces into the capital of Rice and lay siege to it. Countless innocents would be lost. She didn't want to have that in her conscience. The following day, Konoha. This is becoming quite a familiar sight, Kakashi said as he walked over to the Ichiraku ramen. He was referring to Yugao chatting with Ayami while the former ate her ramen. He knew that the only thing the two have in common is Naruto. Senpai, are you stalking me? Yugao asked, looking at the former Anbu captain at the corner of her eyes. She had noticed that the Jonin has been checking her out more often after it became public knowledge that Naruto was involved in the incident that saw the defeat of the 5 Kages by Uchiha Madara. Maybe, Kakashi shrugged before ordering his ramen. No, you can just admit it that you are worried about me. I won't bite you, it is not like there is nothing wrong with being worried over someone, Yugao stated with a small smile on her face. I am worried, Kakashi said, rather calmly. Now was that really hard? Yugao asked, turning around to face the Jonin. Really? Kakashi had to be honest with his emotions. He always liked to bottle things on his own. Even though he was worried, he never says it unless things become worse. She couldn't say that Naruto was like that. What she had realized with him was that even though he loved her, he didn't have much in terms of feelings and emotions. There was nothing much he could express because he probably had nothing to express. He just wasn't like other people when it came to emotions. Not really, again, Kakashi shrugged. This action earned a sigh from Yugao. Ayami came back with his ramen and he took it. Then, what is it? How are you? He wasn't looking directly at her when he questioned. His eyes were looking down at his ramen bowl. It was the first time he asked her that question since everything. Perhaps it was because things had now reached a critical stage. I am fine. I have been telling everyone that I am fine. Seriously, I have to deal with this from Kurenai and Anko. Yugao shook her head as she spoke. It was like she had cancer with the way her friends bothered her about Naruto. And honestly, it was becoming annoying. They are just worried about you, Yugao-san. You were the one who was closest to him before he left, Ayami interjected on the conversation between the two. Her expression wasn't that cheerful as it has always been, but she had a smile nonetheless. Someone should also be worrying about you, Ayami, Yugao said, turning the tables onto the other female. I may have been in a relationship with Naruto, but you were somewhat his family when he was little. My relationship with him was short, but your relationship with him has been going on a long time. Both Ayami and Kakashi noticed that she addressed her relationship in past tense and Ayami's relationship in present. But neither was willing to comment on it, for now at least. It just went to figure that Yugao considered her relationship with Naruto over. Both knew that she didn't think like just that after Naruto left. I am alright. I am used to Naruto disappearing. It isn't so bad since he said goodbye this time. This earned raised brows from both Yugao and Kakashi. He actually came to say goodbye to you? Kakashi asked, looking straight at Ayami. The woman nodded with a sad smile on her face. You know, I have always thought that you meant more to Naruto than anyone in this world. I don't think Naruto himself is aware of this fact, but I believe that if he were to choose between me and you, he would choose you, Yugao stated, surprising Ayami. What was most surprising was that she didn't sound bitter about it. I hardly think so. Anyone would choose their lover over a stranger, Ayami said, shaking her head. But then again, Naruto is not anyone. But she still found it hard to believe. Nevertheless, the thought that she was the human who meant more to Naruto than anyone, gave her heart a warm feeling, a feeling that she wanted to hold on to until she sees him again. Yugao shook her head, standing firm on what he had said. I am serious, Ayami. Do you even know the reason Naruto comes to eat ramen? She paused for a moment to allow the other woman to think. He does it for you, not for the love of ramen. He comes here to eat ramen so he can see you smile. Naruto does that for no one. He doesn't do anything for anyone, unless it works better for him. And I would ask, what does Naruto gain by making you smile? Ayami didn't say a word. She never really did think it like that. She recalled when she told him never to leave the village for some without telling her, and he kept his promise. Before Yugao, she was the only person he showed his smile, she was the only person he cared enough to ask for her health. He also made sure that he was here often to eat ramen. But was it really all just for her? Kakashi spoke, agreeing with Yugao. Now that you say it, I think you have a point. Ayami is the only person within the village that he actually conversed with. And he was willing to talk about trivial matters with her, something he doesn't do. He paused for a moment and fixed Ayami a look. I don't really know what Naruto thinks of you, but you are the closest thing he has ever had to a family. I think that is something that can never be replaced. Ayami still did not say a word for a few moments. She did say something though. This is overwhelming, she said and looked at Yugao. You are not bitter about it. I'd imagine that you would be a little jealous about it. Women tend to be jealous when those they love value someone over them, Kakashi added, narrowing his eye at Yugao. Yugao chuckled, a bit bitterly. I was indeed jealous and furious about it when I realized it. I mean, I am the one he loved, yet someone was far more important to him than me. I had to be bitter. But I am not a selfish person. Ayami did for Naruto more than any of us ever did. She became his friend when he had no one. I was his protector, yet he still received those beatings. But Ayami was always here, waiting for him to cheer him up. It would be selfish for me to say she doesn't deserve to be high up there. But, Ayami was see off by Yugao. Look, Ayami, I love Naruto, I really do. But when he came to tell me he was leaving, I didn't even try to persuade him to take me with him. My heart was torn between my love for him and for Konoha. I swore my loyalty to Konoha and I vowed that I would never betray this village over anything. When the situation came, I chose Konoha. But if it had been you, you would have left with him. Here I am. I have not even once gone to see him since he left. Things have gotten even worse now since the villagers call him a traitor. I could never give my whole heart to him. And given the current situation, I never will. But that is how things are and I have accepted that. Even though I love Naruto, I can't leave my family, my friends, this village I have lived my life protecting. I can't betray it all. I believe that I will find happiness again. Nevertheless, I am happy that I was able to show him what it means to be loved. Yugao never broke down. She kept her voice calm and never shed a tear. This was enough for Ayami to realize just how hard the life of a shinobi really is. To rest personal things for your own village, she never thought anything like that. But here, it was a reality. Some people had to make such choices. No wonder some were branded traitors or lost their heads. Being a shinobi was not all about cool jutsus and being strong. I understand that Yugao, Kakashi stated, a bit grimly. But you cannot always put the village above everything else. I know someone would call it treachery coming from me, but sometimes it is better to follow your own dream than the village's. Yugao smiled sadly. You don't understand it, do you, Kakashi? Now, she rarely called the Jonin by his name. It was a surprise to Kakashi that she did. Naruto is called a traitor by this village's people. The leaders will most likely follow the same path. And soon, the village might clash with him. No, with each passing day, I believe that we will clash with him. If I had left with him, do you realize what would happen? Kakashi widened his eyes and swallowed hardly. Ayami looked confused, making Kakashi explain it to her. Konoha is certain to clash with Naruto and if Yugao had left with him, she would have been forced to fight her friends, family and everyone she once held dear. It would be either her or her friends. Even if she chooses to rest so that she doesn't face her friends, Naruto would not be pleased by it. Oh, that was the only sound Ayami could make. Kumogakure. The trip back to Kumogakure was relatively spent within her mind. It was not long since Naruto had sent her away from the borders of his country. She was not much in a hurry to return home, but she forced herself to speed up because she thought the Raikage may be looking for her. She had left the village without notice. Her mind was preoccupied with the state she had seen Naruto in. It was kind of sad to see him like that. He seemed like the one who was proud of his power. Yet, He seemed like he had been off it. Even though he was her enemy, she felt something in her heart when she saw him like that. It got her curious, who could have done something like that to him? Could it be Madara? But, he looked like he was really, really sick. He did not seem like he was suffering from injuries he got from a battle. A few weeks ago, he looked fine, but now he looked miserable. Nevertheless, he was still Uchiha Naruto. She thought that only forces of nature and Madara could do that to him. It was still a surprise to her that he would allow her, the enemy, to see him in that state. Perhaps he was testing her. Of all the Jinchurikis, she was the only one he personally chose to save. He even offered to give her something that would make her useful again. Normally, she would have refused since he was the enemy and someone her Raikage wanted to Yet, even after that, she sought after him. He did not touch her, but only said he would want her to do something for him. Why did she not refuse to agree to anything back then? Why did she not care about what the Raikage would say about her visit to the enemy? Why did she even touch him as she did and look at him with concern? It was all confusing her. Sometimes she stopped and looked at the hands that touched the enemy of her village with concern. Why did she do it? You look troubled. The smooth voice of Samui brought Yugito out of her thoughts. She had now been walking on the ground knowing that she was close. Samui was standing on a tree branch in her front. Naruto, got to you. How did you know where I was? You've been followed since you entered the borders of the Cloud Country, Samui responded as she jumped down. Yugito walked towards her before responding. I have been so lost in thought that I never noticed, she said, shaking her head. What did you mean Naruto got to you? There are little things that interest me. But when I met him, my world suddenly became bigger and I found myself interested in him. He is an interesting person after all. My conversation with him was actually cool. Without even knowing it, he got to me, Samui stated as the two began to move forward. I don't understand what you are saying, Yugito said, but got the feeling that she was not going to get an explanation. It's okay, Samui said. Did you get what you wanted? No, he told me to be patient. Yugito looked at Samui curiously. Why do I get the feeling that you are familiar with Naruto? Samui did not respond. Let us pick up our pace. Raikage-sama is really furious with you. But I have managed to smooth things over for you. And if you say exactly what I tell you, you won't get into trouble. Are you really Samui? The fact that Naruto also took away the Hachibi from B has made the Raikage really unstable. B is no longer the same without his Bayu, he has even stopped rapping. This of course has brought great pain to I, and he is blaming Naruto for B's sadness. Not to mention that he has lost his weapons. Yugito, you know every well that I will never see you in the same light as B. And lately he has become suspicious of everyone. Naruto saved you from Akatsuki, only to come back later to take your Bayu. To make things worse, you also went to see him, despite knowing how I feels about him. Samui paused for a moment before continuing. You are no longer important as you were when you were a Jinchuriki. Actions such as this won't be overlooked. I know, and I know very well that the eye will no longer look at me in the same way after this. Yugito placed her right hand on her sea. Yet, it does not worry me. I know. Samui surprised Yugito by her response. But it does not change the situation. You are a Kumo shinobi and you will be punished for going against the Raikage. But don't worry, I have smoothed things for you. Why? You are my friend, and I know you would never betray Kumo. That was all Samui said, and it was enough for Yugito. December 26, the Wagakur. Kuretsuki sighed as she went through her grandfather's work. He left the village a few days ago, but he did not tell her where he was going. Despite this, she knew where he was going. She has learned to get information herself because she knew that the old man never really told her everything. He only told her when he wanted her involved. But when he was not going to involve her, he always kept her in the dark. She was quite frankly tired of being treated like a child. She was a grown woman. Her train of thoughts was interrupted when a shadow appeared before her. She was quickly put on alert as the person walked towards her calmly. You are Kuretsuki-san, correct? I am, and who might you be? The black-haired demanded with narrowed eyes. She may not be in the Tsuchikage Tower, but her house was protected by Anbu. They should have made their move to apprehend this man seconds ago. But they were not. This meant that he may have done something to them. My name is irrelevant, the stranger responded in a smooth tone that leaked out nothing unwanted. But I am a messenger from the Imperial Kingdom. At the mention of that, the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage was right in front of the man. A kunai was firmly pressed against his en, yet he did not do even so much as to blink. Tell me why I should not s your tea right now. For one, I am behind you. The man spoke from behind to confirm that he was indeed behind her. Kuretsuki was shocked, but she quickly turned out to face him. However, he was not looking at her. He was walking towards her desk. The nerve of this man. This was her home, for heaven's sake. And he dares to defile it and goes even as far as to show her his back. Unacceptable. Yet, she swallowed her pride and went back to her chair. The stranger had also taken a seat already. What do you want? I have a message from His Majesty. It was a simple response from the man. Yet it carried much more weight. What does he want from me? She could care less what he wants from her though. She had no business with the likes of him and would probably raise her chakra to call help so she could apprehend this fool. But he appeared to be prepared for anything. So she would not do anything foolish. You just have to answer a simple question. And if I refuse to answer, you are not obligated to answer the question. And I will not force you, but I advise you answer if you care for this village. Another smooth reply. The way he was speaking was starting to tick off Kuretsuki. But she held herself from jumping on him again. Is that a threat? Her eyes were narrowed even deeper. She did not take lightly to threats towards her village. She would kill anyone who dared threaten this place. Not at all, the man said, shaking his head slightly. But your Tsuchikage has arrived in Kumogakure. They plan to discuss how they are going to deal with His Majesty and Uchiha Madara. The latter has already defeated them, and he will do it again if they challenge him. But the difference is that this time, he will kill them. Kuretsugi snorted. Like that would ever happen. Gramps would never be defeated easily again. He may be old, but he is not weak. How naive. Perhaps His Majesty was right about you. You are certainly a child, no wonder Onoki never lets you in on serious matters. What? Care to repeat that again? Kuretsuki's tone was dangerously low. She was certainly not pleased with being called a child and naive. She was a grown-up woman. When were people going to start realizing this? I am just a messenger, yet I was able to infiltrate this village and enter your house without being caught. I could have you if I wanted to. His Majesty's power is far beyond your level of imagination, and I tell you, if Kumo and Iwa succeed in mobilizing their forces to attack His Majesty, both villages will be destroyed. You are underestimating the power of the cages. Something like that cannot happen. Kuretsuki felt confident that it couldn't happen. It was just impossible. One man cannot destroy two great villages on his own. I am not underestimating anything. But I know this, you will all come to know His Majesty's power, and after that, you will be faced with a choice. But before that, you must answer this question. Between the love for your village and your hatred towards His Majesty, which would you pick? Kuretsuki bit her lip. It wasn't an easy question to answer. It may look so, but it wasn't so easy. She understood that the fact that this man came here, there was something very bad that would happen if she chose to pursue her hatred. The good answer would obviously be her love for this village, but this is a good reaction. You didn't jump to respond without weighing the meaning behind all these. Perhaps you may not be a child. But what will you do when you are faced with that reality? The stranger stood up. Although this is not an answer, it is good enough for me. He was gone after that. What the hell was that all about? Kuretsuki questioned herself after that man disappeared. She had allowed an enemy to leave without resistance. What the hell was she thinking? Her grandfather will not be pleased if he hears something like that. Later, Conan sighed as she narrowed her eyes at the corner of her office. There was someone in her presence that was hiding. She cursed herself for not realizing it earlier though. It was rare for someone to dare enter her tower. She did not think that anyone from this village would do that. Her villagers had great respect of her, even though the god had disappeared. She figured that it must be someone from outside the village. Recently, spies have gotten braver in infiltrating the village and it was threatening the security of the village. But she was doing well to put him down. She was not going to allow anyone to threaten her village. Not while she waits for his return. His dream was for a better world, and he left without bringing that world. It was not fair to him. Come out, I know you are there, Conan finally stated, looking at the shadow in her office. She was more than ready to deal with anyone who threatened her. And this was also the case. I expected nothing less from Konan-sama, the man who had appeared before Kuretsuki spoke, as he appeared before the leader of Omegakure. Conan got a good look at him. He was wearing a long-sleeved black shirt and dark black pants. He also wore black gloves and black shinobi boots. Conan could see that he was of a good build. He had short spiky black hair, small black eyes, and was fair-skinned. She did notice that he called her Konan-sama, even though he was not from her village. You are not from here, why do you call me like that and in a friendly manner? I am a messenger for the Imperial Kingdom. I address you in such a manner because you are a valued ally to the kingdom and you hold a higher position than I am. I am just a messenger, you are a leader of this great village, the man responded calmly. What is your name? My name is irrelevant, but if you insist I will tell. For now, I was sent by His Majesty. He wishes to see you, the messenger stated, smoothly. His Majesty wishes to speak with me. Conan smiled. It was about damn time. She has been bored and a little lonely these days. Has His Majesty considered my wish? Yes. His Majesty will make your wish come true. Conan nodded. Being curious, she questioned. I thought that if he wanted to speak with me he would come himself. The messenger walked over to Conan and placed his hand on her right shoulder before responding. His Majesty never leaves his palace unless the situation calls for it. Now that we are available, His Majesty never does any trivial matters. The man stated calmly. Shall we? Before Conan could even respond, they disappeared. December 26th, Konoha. The Konoha 11 was all grouped at Training 8 discussing the recent events and the events that will surely occur in the near future. The main subject was Uchiha Naruto though. They thought that Uchiha Madara would be dealt by the adults and they would deal with Naruto as he attended the academy with them. He was their peer. Things are getting heated up, really bad. I thought that once we get into the new year things would have settled down a bit, Kiba said, sighing. While he had no problems with testing his limits, he really wanted to get some peace. Inside the village it was peaceful, but outside, it was dangerous. It was common events that had been occurring recently. Konoha shinobi have been killed by shinobi claiming to be either from Sunagakure or the Imperial Kingdom. But they knew well enough that it was not shinobi from those places. Sunagakure would never do anything like that, and such tactics were really below Naruto. Iwagakure and Kumo were the ones being suspected of the deeds, but apparently it wasn't them after it was later discovered who was truly behind such tactics. Both villages were now working with Konoha. They would certainly not do anything to jeopardize that relationship. It was later discovered that the smaller villages were taking part in the big leagues. But Konoha has yet to punish any of those villages. But things would not be like that forever. Things are certainly tough. My dad doesn't even want me to leave the village, Ino groaned slightly. He thinks that if the attempts to get the great villages to turn on each other don't stop, it may most likely lead to a war. Shikamaru nodded. He is right. Even though we know Sunagakure is not behind it, it can still lead to war. It is mostly likely that the great villages will wage war against the smaller villages. That is just messed up. I don't really want to get involved in a war, Sakura stated, looking a bit shaken by the thought of war. It is unlikely that anything will happen, Sasuke stated, getting the attention of his peers. Haven't you heard that there are some guys taking care of the trouble? I thought it was just a rumor, Neji said. But it was reported that shinobi reportedly from the Imperial Kingdom, apprehended some who were causing trouble around their borders. It is most likely that Naruto will not allow anyone to ruin the image of his country. On other news events, Ino said coming up with what she heard from her father. My father told me that there is a large prison being built around one of the island around the mist. I have also heard that the prison being built by Naruto-san's people. Shino added his own input. In any case, we have to discuss how we are going to deal with the Naruto issue. With how things have now become over the past weeks, we know that Naruto will not return to this village. Especially now that he is being called a traitor, Shikamaru said, trying to bring the conversation back to the main point. It will be hard. We know what he went through in his childhood. But we have not heard if he is being called because he is seeking revenge. But it is decided if he comes after our home, we will have to stop him, Neji stated in a firm tone that left no arguments. Since that was our Friend, we will have to deal with him ourselves if comes here for trouble, Kiba stated, raising his fist. And I have a score to settle with him. Sasuke snorted. You are an idiot, he said, earning a glare from Kiba. If you think you can defeat Naruto, then you are much more of an idiot, arrogant fool than I had thought. His clear disgust was not missed by anyone. That was uncalled for, Sasuke, Sakura berated, but Sasuke merely shrugged and walked away from the group. He does have a point, Shikamaru stated, so that they didn't start cursing Sasuke for being brutally honest. It was not that he cared for the Uchiha, or anything. He was just being realistic. Are you going to side with him? Kiba asked, glaring down at Shikamaru. No, but he has a point. Do you really think that you can defeat Naruto, Kiba? Need I remind you that not even Sasuke could do that? With Sasuke, idiots, Sasuke muttered as he threw himself on his bed. They were idiots for thinking they could take on Naruto. He was confused. Was Naruto really the enemy? Was Konoha itself the real enemy? If more than anything, this village was truly evil. But Naruto has not done anything to help himself. Nevertheless, he has not promised to destroy this village or even threaten it, so why was he called a traitor? If he was planning on revenge, then he would understand. Konoha abused him and then spat him out. But Naruto said no revenge. At the moment, Naruto seemed to be minding his own business. After collecting the Bijuas, he disappeared from the face of the earth. Even those in his capital don't see him. What was he really planning then? Sasuke felt himself being pulled into another dimension. Never minding his surrounding as he felt no threat coming. Who are you? He asked the figure before him. I am Hagoromo, your generation knows me as the Sage of Six Paths, the legendary founder of Shinobi responded, looking straight at the Uchiha. Never the one to question trivial matters, Sasuke never questioned where they were. What do you want with me? I have come to talk to you about Naruto. The sage responded calmly. He spoke again. You must be wondering what he is planning, but I won't get to that. Nevertheless, with what has done and what he is planning to do won't be good. I can also assure you that Naruto will end up destroying Konoha. Why are you telling me all these? Although I do not know what precisely it is that he plans. I know for certain that he plans to become god of this world. To do that, he wants to become immortal and have powers that will leave him without a rival. Tell me, if someone like Naruto possesses power that no one rivals, what will he do to this world? He is easily bored, and for his own amusement, he can start a war. Becoming god was just ridiculous. Even if he was not sure if Naruto was the enemy or not, but he knew that the blonde was not someone who should be the strongest. Naruto liked things going his way, and if not, he would ensure that they are, no matter what. The blonde was already dangerous as he was. And possibly his death could lead to some peace. You wish for me to stop him? I don't know if I can do that. Naruto is stronger than me and I am not sure if he is even the enemy. Nevertheless, the current situation was made by him and he doesn't seem to be doing anything to make it better. That I can't accept. Good answer, Hagoromo stated. Naruto is not unbeatable at the moment. He is vulnerable. This could also explain why he locks himself in his palace. If you want to know what he plans, you will have to defeat him now. Depending on the answer, you can allow him to live or kill him. But he was certain that if Naruto loses, Madara would kill him. If Naruto is alive, the infamous Uchiha cannot make his plans come true. He was indeed taking a great risk in all this. If things went wrong, Sasuke could also end up being killed and Madara would initiate his plan without anyone to stop him. However, he was betting on Naruto to lose, and then he would break a few rules to ensure that he deals with Madara. Without those two gone, the world would be free. It didn't matter if he was to be condemned for his actions. He could not face Naruto in an open battle, even if he broke a few rules. This is why his plan depended on Madara to finish what he started. The major problem to arise would be if Naruto wins. If the blonde does win, then he wouldn't be able to use Sasuke. Unaware of Hagoromo's thoughts, Sasuke smiled. That sounds fair. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.